The pandemic is over. Is it time for the Rupiah Redenomination? And who cares? And why? Stay tuned for details. Selamat datang. Welcome to the latest news from Bali and Indonesia. This is June 26th, 2023, and my name is Bruce. And what is the weather like today in Bali? Well, especially in Kampung Bugis in Buleleng, it is 29.7 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 57%. Yes, this is the first time below 60 in quite a while. And the wind speed, 7.4 kilometers per hour, not too bad. And yeah, what can I say? Another lovely day. Another lovely day. And I hope it's a lovely day wherever you are. I don't know what about the rest of Bali, wherever you are. Down in Tuban, over in Ubud, maybe in Canggu. I don't think I get many people from Canggu that watch this channel. They're a little too young. So let me know, and I hope that the weather is great and you are having a wonderful time. This is a busy, busy week here in Kampung Bugis. Well, particularly in my house in Kampung Bugis. We have a couple of birthdays, and Eid al-Adha is just a few days away. And I'll be talking more about Eid al-Adha in a couple of days on a video more specifically about that. But let's get on with the main stories. Jokowi declares COVID-19 pandemic over, finally. I know a lot of people have been waiting for the official announcement. So he has revoked the emergency status, and that was done last Wednesday. And the president said we're now entering an endemic period. The government hopes that this decision can spur further growth in the economy and improve the public's quality of life. The president said, even though the pandemic is over, the public should continue to maintain a healthy lifestyle and personal hygiene, nevertheless. And really, how does this happen? People have been living like it's in the endemic period for quite a long time now. The president's decision was based on the fact that the daily caseload now is close to zero, and that around 99% of Indonesians have antibodies against the coronavirus, as revealed by recent natural serology surveys. So now that the virus has become endemic, the public will have to start paying for COVID-19 vaccines and treatment on their own, and I would like to see that, or through their insurance programs, such as the National Health Insurance Program, BPJS-JKN. Well, are people getting vaccinated? I don't think so. The president said people should learn to live with COVID-19 as an endemic disease and take their own health precautions against it, because the virus will not go away, even though the emergency status has been lifted. Well, and everybody's been acting like there hasn't been a virus here for quite a long time. And the government is going to disband the COVID-19 task force. Remember, this channel used to be COVID-19 Update. And, well, it's been quite a while since I've done the COVID-19 update. As you know, if you've watched earlier videos, the WHO declared early last month that the disease was no longer a global health emergency. But the president decided to wait until the health ministry was able to outline a new strategy to treat the coronavirus as an endemic disease and to manage future pandemics based on guidelines from the WHO. And so, as usual, the president has been very cautious, very conservative about this, and he has done this throughout this period of the pandemic. The government started easing health restrictions late last year, and then a few weeks ago, the government dropped the mask mandate when you were flying or in crowds or indoor places. And of course, the need to show that you've been vaccinated was gotten rid of for international tourists, and domestic tourists can fly without showing it. And so all of this stuff has already been gone, but now it is official. The pandemic is over. Long live the endemic, I guess. You may remember that back early in this period, the government decided not to do the massive lockdowns that were done around the world. And even though some people called this a lockdown here, it was never really a lockdown compared to what was going on in the Czech Republic or in the US or other countries. No. As I used to say back when I was doing the COVID-19 updates, life in Singaraja went on pretty much as normal, unless, of course, you were in the tourist economy, in which case you were really hit. We did, remember, at one point have 2,000 deaths a day back in 2021. That was when the health system was pushed to the limits and the president enacted a four-tier public activities restriction, the PPKM, which I used to talk about all the time as well. And that was the trademark of the government's pandemic response. And it helped push daily caseloads back to the low three digits by the end of 2021. We did have some spikes in 2022 when the Omicron virus, the Omicron variant came around, but the daily caseloads went down after February 22 when we got that Omicron third wave. And so, hey, officially been noted what everybody has been living for the last few months. And so, good news. On to the next story. Are we finally zeroing in on Rupiah Redenomination? The Bank Indonesia has said that the implementation of a long-ready plan to slash some zeros off the national currency is waiting for the appropriate time. They've been waiting for the appropriate time for a long time. Regarding redenomination, the BI governor said that we've been ready for a long time, and he noted that this readiness included the design and the introductory strategy for the new currency. The smallest rupiah banknote currently in circulation is 1,000 rupiah, while the largest is 100,000. The BI governor said that the time for redenomination must meet three preconditions: strong macroeconomic environment, monetary and financial system stability, and conducive political climate. The discussion on the rupiah redenomination has been going on for decades, a long, long time. The finance ministry said that they can take 3 zeros off of the currency. And, well, that would make 1,000 rupiah become 1 rupiah. The redenomination plan was supposed to materialize in 2020, but that never happened because the bill was not included in the national legislative program for 2018, 2019, or 2020. The cabinet and BI leadership reshuffles, as well as other matters deemed more urgent, like COVID, also left redenomination plan, well, on the back burner, more or less. In 2020, the plan was thought about again and put into the 2020 to 2024 strategy. Economy and banking analysis, Pagdodi from Binus University believes that now is the right time, particularly since inflation has long been in the single digits. He said, the right policy is a policy that is anticipatory. Redenomination would raise the prestige of the rupiah in the eyes of the world. Interesting reason. And he said this would be in line with the government's vision to become a developed country by 2045. He said there's not many zeros in the currencies of developed countries. Fewer zeros means efficient business. Now, this is an interesting one. So if we get rid of all the zeros, or we get rid of 3 of the zeros, it's going to make us look more developed. Okay, I hadn't really heard that before, and I hadn't really thought all that much about it. I mean, I've been here for 33 years. I'm used to all these zeros, but who knows? Maybe people will think we're more developed if we don't have so many zeros. Abdul Manap, a researcher at the Institute for Development of Economics and Finance, agreed that the redenomination would be worth it as it could benefit businesses and instill the public with a sense of patriotism and pride in the national currency. Psychologically, he said, the public and economic actors become more confident when holding redenomination money, even though the value is the same. Okay, I've never heard this one before either. Pak Abdul said that there are no major issues standing in the way of the rupiah's redenomination, but noted that the absence of a specific target in the government's plan is what's holding up things right now. Pak Abdul also emphasized the need to familiarize and educate the public on the redenomination plan. He said this is particularly important for the generation that experienced having to cut their banknotes in half. What? Right. Apparently, back in 1950, people were told to cut their banknotes in half because there was a currency shortage. Later that year, old rupiah banknotes were exchanged for new ones at a ratio of 1,000 to 1. Some history that I had never heard about. Pak Abdul expressed confidence that people today are sufficiently financially literate to understand redenomination and that the plan can be explained either in person, on television, or through social media. Pak Dodi said that financial literacy is not relevant because redenomination, he said, is not complex to begin with. Furthermore, the public's readiness for lopping off the 3 zeros was reflected in the informal redenomination of the rupiah over years. He said many restaurants and retailers use the letter K to denote 1,000, so effectively creating the semblance of a revamped currency. So he said, in spoken Indonesia, the word rupiah is often omitted when the context makes its use unnecessary, which creates the impression that the word for 1,000, ribu, is used as a monetary unit. He said, if the rupiah redenomination comes to pass, people will simply need to readjust by remembering to drop the ribu and tack on rupiah instead. Okay, and he said that there's potential changes for rupiah coins, which range now from 100 to 1,000, and these could be phased out altogether, he said, or they could make smaller monetary units like 1 cent piece. I don't know why they would want to do that. And you notice that I said that the smallest coin was 100. I found this the other day. I don't know. I don't think I'm close enough for you to see this, but what is this? This is a 50 rupiah coin, and it has the Komodo dragon on it, and it was issued in the year 1994, 50 rupiah. I'm saving this one for my great-great-great-great-grandchildren. Okay, so, well, I'm kind of excited about this. I don't know about you, but yeah, it would be fun to have some new rupiah notes and no more ribus, and we'd have a 1, a 5, a 10, 20, 50, 100, I guess. I think it would take people some time to adjust, particularly older people, like in my age range. Young people, I'm sure, will pick it up quite quickly. It will take a little bit of time for people to adjust to it, but yeah, I'm all for it. What about you? Leave a comment. Let's get on to rabies. Dog vaccinations, nearly 80%. If people get bitten by dogs, immediately ask for VAR. And this is about bullying. The regional secretary for bullying, Gede Siasa, said some time ago that the government had tried to carry out prevention, and that means by vaccinating the dogs in order to prevent rabies. And among them, the ways that the government's trying to do this, besides vaccination, is working with village officials and making community awareness in terms of what to do with your dogs and what to do when you are bitten by a dog. Currently, there's enough vaccinations available at the local puskesmas, and so if you are bitten by a dog, you need to immediately go to a health center or a hospital and get a shot. And I've mentioned this before, but there's half a dozen articles I saw today about this in Gianyar, in Karangasem, in Kelingking, and here in Buleleng. Cases here in Buleleng still high. According to a spokesperson, what I see is the case data is still high, but if the VAR, the vaccine, is given quickly, everything will be okay. So, we talked about this many times in the past, 2 months. The important thing is to get a shot if you're bitten. If the VAR is not available, it might be difficult, according to the spokesperson, but the VAR is available at all puskesmas as well as public hospitals. And right now, the dog vaccination rate is 80% here in Buleleng. And there was another article that just came out today. Well, actually, there were about 3 or 4 of them. One saying that Australia is going to be sending hundreds of thousands of doses of the vaccine for dogs, the anti-rabies vaccine, so that continue to vaccinate dogs around the island. And so just a caution, if you get bit, even just a scratch, make sure you go in and get it checked. Let's talk about the economy. And now that we are in the endemic stage, and we have been actually in the endemic stage, not officially, but in reality for quite a while now, what's happening with the economy? Reaching 80% figures, recovery in the hospitality industry in Bali continues to improve. Yeah. In 2023, according to this article, it can be said 100% of employees who were laid off during the pandemic have been returned to work. This was conveyed by the chairman of the Indonesia Hotel General Manager Association, Yoga Iswara, recently. He said Bali's recovery at the hotel industry level is almost 80%. He said people in the industry who have been open for business since the opening of the border have an occupancy rate that exceeds 2019. But he said what this means is that there are still several properties that are not yet operating. And so it can be said, he said, that the supply is more limited than the demand. And so we have, as you know, a lot of tourists coming in. And he said, and there's also revenge travel, tourists coming in because they haven't been able to go anywhere for 3 years because of COVID. And so we've got a lot of people coming in. Not all of the hotels, the homestays are open yet for business, he said, but the ones that are open are doing good. He said, don't get overly excited about it because we have to remember the lessons that we've learned during COVID-19. And according to the do's and don'ts of Bali tourism, well, according to him, the government has taken these strategic steps to remind tourists to behave. And he said the tourists are basically disciplined that he has seen. And these warnings now have been placed in all over the island, according to this article. And I just saw another article just a few minutes ago before I started this that said that the minister for human rights was here checking on things at the airport the other day. And apparently you've got two things. One is you get a card that goes in your passport, and the other is that there's a QR code that you scan at the immigration counter, and that will give you a digital copy of this to remind you in case you throw away or lose your card. Now, I don't know. I haven't heard about anybody getting this yet. People who have just arrived, if you're watching this channel and you'd like to leave a comment, I would love to hear. So is the card out? And what about the QR code? Has anybody done this yet? I'm really interested in this. And so Bak Yoga said things are looking good. And he said it's expected that the number of tourists coming to Bali is going to continue to rise during 2023, as Pak Sandiago Uno said the other day when I was in a video I was talking about. Bak Yoga said the number of international tourists has even exceeded domestic tourists. However, he said, we cannot take domestic tourists for granted. Domestic tourists have to be managed because the potential for domestic tourism is very large, and they are a safety net for Bali, as we saw during the pandemic. And so, good news on the hotel front. There were a number of stories in the press over the last, 3 or 4 days since my previous video about bules behaving badly and deportations continuing on and on and on. This one I decided to talk about because it's another one of foreigners beating up Indonesians who make them upset for whatever reason. And this is not acceptable. What gets through people's heads that they think that they can just come around beating people up? Those kind of people, boy, I think the government should put them in jail first and let them stew for a while and then deport them. Can't wait. Caucasian beats the parking attendant until he bleeds at Kelingking Beach in Nusa Penida. So a foreigner whose identity has not yet been determined hit the parking attendant 4 times in the chin. The foreigner was angry because the parking attendant moved his motorbike, which was blocking the road. So when this foreigner arrived, and there are several different stories now about this version, and this is all on the regular local media. One that there were several foreigners, one that there were 4 foreigners, and one that there was 1 foreigner. But all seem to agree that it was only one person that hit the parking attendant. So what happened is the foreigner arrived either by himself or with another person or with several other people. He parked his bike right in front of a resident's stall, And he was told, you can't park your bike here. You're blocking the road. You need to move it. And he just ignored and took off and went to do his thing. So the parking attendant did what parking attendants do. He moved his bike over to the parking area out of the way. When the foreigner came back and found that his bike had been moved, he launched into a diatribe in English, all the articles say, and said some rather nasty things to the parking attendant and then hit him 4 times in the face. And in the photos, you can see blood running down from his mouth and on his neck, and then hopped on his bike and took off. The parking attendant went and made a complaint with the police, and the police are currently looking for the foreigner, and his photo is all over social media. So I imagine at some point, since the government has been asking local residents, if you find somebody doing something bad, turn them in right away. I imagine that this guy is going to be caught relatively quickly. Somebody's going to see him, click a picture, go to the police, and they will grab him. And I hope that he gets some time in the pen for this. Okay, that is it for today. Busy, busy, busy. I've got 3 of my grandchildren here now. Anything interesting going on in your area of Bali or in another part of Indonesia especially? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today, stay safe, and I will see you next time.